All right, a lot of people want to know what the dreaded excessive crankshaft end play is on D2, D4 pony motors. Same thing applies for the R and U series D6s, any of the horizontal two-cylinder pony motors. If you have a lot of crankshaft end play, that is controlled by the main bearing pressed in right there. This one is bad enough. You see the main bearing is actually loose in its bore, so there's no retention, no holding. Normally, that hole is lined up and doweled to hold the bearing. Number one, the bearing should be press fit, drive fit into the block. Secondarily, that big center hole, thin, should have a dowel driven through, and it should be, press fit. They tell you to ream the bore at .2485, so 1.5 thou under the nominal 1/4 inch dowel. Pretty typical. Once things start moving, the dowel just pops out of its bore. Chances are we're going to find it down inside the engine. Here's an example on the other end, the other main bearing. You can see the dowel is in place there. But since that bearing is not retained, the crank and bearing is moving back and forth. So that tells me that, number one, the bearing is junk. If the bore in the block is too big to accept a new bearing, I then make a custom bearing for that location so that it is press fit in the block, properly retained. Some, if that bore right there where the dowel goes is worn out and sloppy, I actually make a threaded dowel that goes in there to retain the bearing. And of course, with it threaded and green Loctite sleeve retainers, what I use there, there will never be a repeat failure here. The drawback to leaving this go for too long, as it runs, your crankshaft is going back and forth linearly. It is hard on the wrist pins and wrist pin bushings up in there. The small end of the connecting rod can actually go against the side of the piston on the inside, which then puts inappropriate forces on the crankshaft through the bearings on the rod, the biggie and the rod bearings. So this is, in a nutshell, the problem. So we rebuild a lot of these every year. I never see worn out bores. I mean, there ain't even a ridge there anywhere. It'll get honed, it'll get rerung, it'll get new main bearings. Chances are it might get new rod bearings. We just got to finish getting apart. What ultimately causes this is turning your pony motor off with the ignition switch, and as you drive around, gas leaks past the needle and seat because the float is bouncing up and down. That in turn goes right down the carburetor into the manifold. Let's see here, this is where your carburetor goes, and it goes right into the intake runners, past your intake valves, past the rings, right into the crankcase, diluting your oil down so the oil can't do its job. That's what you're dealing with right there. Have a good day.